And welcome back to the Jared Cook Classic. I'm Marcus Burnett. I'm going to be joined on the microphone by J.L. Hemingway and Brandon Clay. We should have starting lineup shortly. We appreciate you joining us here on SUVtv. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here. We're about ready to get started. Starting lineups have been introduced. And again, thank you for joining us. You could have been a lot of places right now, but you're here watching on SUVtv, and we appreciate it. I'm joined by Brandon Clay as well as J.L. Hemingway. Fellas, day 2, Jared Cook Classic, GAC versus Peachtree Ridge. A good enough Gwinnett matchup for you?
It doesn't get much better, man. I'm really excited about this. You know, both are new look rosters. You know, we've talked a lot about the graduation and the movement of players, so both of these teams look a little different, but still some familiar pieces, man. I think Eric Jameson for GAC, Aaron Augustin for Peachtree Ridge will be two of the headliners, and let's get ready to rock.
Hemi, your thoughts?
Two proven coaches right here that have been around in not only the county but the state of Georgia for some time. Of course, Coach Eddie Martin, multiple state championships, and Coach Keith Arrington that just continues to do a great job with his guys at Peachtree Ridge. Gets them to play hard, keeps it simple, night in and night out.
As we're ready to tip off, Aaron Augustin trying to get the bounce pass through there. It's going to be kicked, but it'll stay with Peachtree Ridge.
Anytime you got John Woods heading up the referee crew, you know it's going to be a good night, Marcus.
Shout out to John Woods. They do a great job officiating. It's been great this entire tournament. Players have been on point. Coaches have been on point. The officials, no exception there as Peachtree Ridge has it. Hayward gets caught in the air but is going to kick it off. That jumper just in and out of there, rebounded by the Spartans. Jameson looking to go to work.
Jamison's going to fill, obviously, a bigger role for the Spartans this year with the graduation of Isaiah Wilkins going to Virginia, 2014 graduate. Jamison going to step up and be one of those alpha players that Coach Martin's going to need this year.
It's interesting how every year GAC has a little bit of a different identity. I think you talk about, you know, programs like Duke and, you know, some of your staples in college basketball, and that's what GAC obviously has been here in the state of Georgia as of recent years. And you look at Jamison now, and it's kind of a hybrid role. You know, he's not like Isaiah Wilkins. He's not like Malcolm Brogdon, who's also at the University of Virginia, but does a lot of good things. Is going to be able to score the basketball from that wing position for Eddie Martin this year.
It's always nice. You talked about the pedigree of the programs you like in GAC too. And it's always nice to be able to see them fit pieces in and still be able to have that same recipe for success.
Yeah, that jumper by Peachtree Ridge earlier, JS team. Keep an eye on this kid, guys. He's going to be really a centerpiece on the wing for Coach Arrington, just a sophomore.
One of those guys has really gotten better, was able to see him as we see that knocked down from the from the corner. That three-pointer good to go by number 10. It's Hayward, the 6-foot sophomore.
I was just about to say, I like Hayward, you know, young guy, man. Reminds me, different game, but in terms of production, Cologne that we watched the other day, Marcus, from Walton, you know, has a chance to be one of those quality sophomore producers in the 17 class here in the state, kind of like number 20, Brian Coffey for GAC.
There we see a Cam Boyd three-pointer, something that GAC fans have been hearing a lot of for the past 4 years.
I was about to say, that doesn't happen often, right?
Right back at you.
That's Miles Tatum, 2016 guard, another talented kid. Was talking to the Peachtree Ridge coaches before the game, and, you know, they're a little bit smaller, you know, graduation, and, of course, Romello White, you know, transferring out. You know, so they're going to be a little bit more guard heavy, but they feel like they can compete with most teams night in, night out.
Jamison's going to be fouled on the spin move. So that will send him to the free throw line. And another player, number 20 for GAC, Brian Coffey, is going to have a lot of the point guard duties. Talk about him having to step up after Morrison heading out.
Well, and it's interesting how, you know, people move, and we talk about shifting. Romello White leaving. Coffee was at Wesleyan, now is at GAC. Charlie O'Brien, who I'm sure will get some time. Speaking of Troy Morrison, he just walks down the stairs. He's now at a prep school. Philip Exeter, they're up north in the Northeast. Great kid, academics, everything are in order. Just wanted to take another year for his physical development and try to land himself, in a situation, Ivy League, Patriot League, one of those. So GAC loses one guard, and ironically, I watched Morrison and Coffee battle with each other in a game last year. They're on campus at GAC, and now Coffee takes his place.
Tough jumper right there by Aaron Augustine. We've gotten, 2 minutes into this game. We haven't even really talked about him already, but boy, he's tough, isn't he, Brandon?
Hey, it won't take long. I had the opportunity to watch him most recently at the John Lucas Invitational there in Louisville, Kentucky, part of our commitment to national event coverage, live coverage where we are. And one of the things that he brought, even in that setting with some of the nation's best, DJ Harvey in 2017 at DeMatha, arguably a top 5 guy in that class. You watched Augustine compete, and his skill set, his ability to make plays, especially in the mid-range, John, is what's going to separate him from a lot of the guards in his size package. I think you'll see as he knocks that jumper down. He reminds me a lot of Tariq Gilbert, Miller Grove. We talk a lot about who's going to be next. So as these programs, Tariq starts to narrow his list, you're going to be looking, okay, who's next now? And I think Aaron, we talk about Jared Harper from Pebblebrook. Those are guys who are going to be next up to bat.
As we see Jamison, he's reminding me a lot of a high school team I had named Darion Alcox. We called him spin move. As you guys can guess, his favorite move on the court, he would spin move off of a free throw if you would let him. Jamison going to get called for the steps there.
To finish that thought on Augustine, Brandon, and Marcus, the knock on him has always been the size, but what I really like about him right now is just how his body is filled out. As Coffee gets called for steps right there. He is strong. He's physically strong through the shoulders. And so I think that's going to be able to make up for, perhaps a little bit of length.
No question. You see the veteran play right there on defense.
Yeah.
He's playing Coffee. He's turned around with his back, but keeps his body, comes back on the other and knocks the 3 down. He's having a blast. Tongue out, just really enjoying the process right now. We're not even 4 minutes into this game, and in 2 minutes, he's heated up.
And it's interesting because you see last year where he had more weapons at his disposal with a Romello White, with a Amir Warnock, some of the pieces he had, but it seems like he's having more fun this year.
A lot of times it can be addition by subtraction. When you've got 2 guys that size, Warnock and White, neither one of them are great in transition in terms of wanting to really run the floor and run rim to rim, whereas in Isaiah Wilkins, GAC did that. Aaron wants to get out and play in transition. That's where he's at his best. So now he's in a position where they're even going to run some staggered double screens, some different things away from the basketball to get him plays and get him situations, as you saw a couple of possessions to go for the 3. And now he gets the ball in transition and takes the 3. Those are shots that I don't know he have the green light for necessarily in every game as you try to keep those 2 big guys fed on the interior.
Great point as they lead by 9 here. Hayward back out to
He's pulling.
Augustine.
Oh, I thought he was going to pull that. I thought he had to pull that one, man. He hit a couple.
Ball won't stay down. Strong rebound there in traffic. We're going to get called for steps there.
Yeah, that's O'Brien. I told you, I liked O'Brien last year. I thought it was a great matchup. GAC was overpowering in terms of their physicality. Wilkins and Morrison, it was a senior-laden team. Even a Cam Boyd, who now is a senior, and Jamison, those guys were still 2 years Coffee and O'Brien senior, but you saw a lot in those guys in terms of what they could bring to the table. So for them now to be wearing the black and red is only going to help GAC all season long, provide them depth at the guard and the center spot.
We're seeing Hayward tickle the twine there. That's his second 3-pointer of the game. It's a 20-8 advantage, and it's an early lead here for GAC, but Hemi, as we saw in Game 1, no lead is safe here at the Jared Cook Classic.
At the Jared Cook Classic, no lead is safe. That is absolutely right. We saw Buford come back from a double-digit deficit on day 1 to beat Walton High School, and then had to hold off Alpharetta here today. Got a last-second tip in. With just 2 seconds on the clock to win earlier here today. So, yeah, you're right. And I'm sure what Coach Martin's talking about in the huddle right now is, identifying the shooters, And probably talking about a little bit more offensive rhythm. They really haven't been able to get what they're looking for on the offensive end. 20-8, but boy, just an offensive explosion thus far by Peachtree Ridge.
Well, and unlike Peachtree Ridge, who you know that you can go to Aaron Augustine at any time and get a basket, GAC is going to have to find that. He did that for them last year, so he's one of the few players that we've seen early in the season that returns in the same role. Maybe the pieces surrounding cast are different, but the role in a lot of ways is the same. He is the dominant lead guard for this team. At GAC right now, you talk about their roster at any given moment, and the 5 they got on the floor, Coffey, O'Brien weren't there. Right now, Boyd is the dominant scorer on the wing for them. That's not a position he was in last year. So, when Jamison's in, that's a new position even for him. So GAC is going to take some time to have to figure it out.
There's Garrett Covington, a player that was a solid contributor for them last year, but really had a coming out party in the Blue Collar Basketball Showcase. As we see another 3-pointer there from Boyd. But Covington had a 25-point game against Luella and Doral Moore there in that showcase.
An interesting adjustment here by Coach Martin. Now, normally you think, okay, a team's heating you up from 3-point range. You need to go man-to-man. Well, he's done just the opposite. He switched from the man-to-man defense and gone to a 2-3 zone now, extending it. But I think what he sees there is that Peachtree Ridge is so efficient running, their double screens and everything like that, that he's got to switch it up. And a nice backdoor play there to get Covington the bucket.
Great pass by Coffey.
It's going to make it a 13-20 ball game in favor of Peachtree Ridge. 2 substitutions into the game for the Lions of Peachtree Ridge. It's number 21, Brandon Hobson. Deep 3-pointer, count it.
Man.
Miles Tatum.
When they're hitting you with Tatum, Hayward, and Aaron, it's really hard. Like, who do you pick, right?
That question hasn't been answered so far, but plenty of game left. Looking to push, going right at the big fella. Risky pass there, and Augustine going to pick up a foul.
Well, and I think if Coach Martin, if I understand his reasoning correctly, going with the 2-3, it gives you, a better chance to close out on more shooters at different spots. And I think I would even take it a step further and say, hey, you got to get out there and you got to make them put it on the floor.
No question.
Make them put it on the floor and drive it into an O'Brien and make them kick it out and such.
I like the flat screen there. Hi, John, like a page out of your book there with CoachEmmy.com or our club coach friend Danny Riego there with the flat screen, man.
Yeah. That flat screen, of course, Billy Donovan made that popular earlier this decade, with Florida, with the guard play that he has, because he really put that defender on an island and you get to read the help side and such. So Coach Martin, obviously a student of the game. Every time I watch him, he's doing something a little bit different. That's what I appreciate about him as a coach.
Cam Boyd, ice cream from the corner.
There's a reason why Lee University signed that young fella, and that's it, man. You go in there, if we get you 8 threes, you better knock down 4 or 5 of them, and at times he's going to knock down 7 or 8 of them, and he can really shoot that basketball.
Yep. Oh, they got the 3-second call, not the travel. Interesting.
Well, I want to make sure while we're talking about Boyd, too, he's really done a good job of changing his frame. Really a commitment. You can tell just looking at him tonight. I was watching a game yesterday at Georgia on the women's side, and there's a young lady named Shakobia Barbie that has really changed her game as well as her frame and really leaned up and done what she needed to do to be in great shape, and you're seeing that right now with Boyd. He's done a really good job being able to play in a game like this.
Shots off the mark. Covington with the rebound. Strong take to the rack. He's going to be fouled by Hayward, who doesn't agree with the call, but Covington headed to the free throw line nonetheless.
I like what Covington's doing right here, and he's fulfilling a very distinct role on this team. Obviously you got Coffey, who's going to be the driver, the facilitator. You got Boyd on the wing that's going to shoot. You got O'Brien, in the middle of the paint that's going to set some screens and get some rebounds. And when all of that happens, the defense, tends to kind of attract to those weapons, and Covington's going to get one-on-one opportunities to be able to slash right to the bucket, and he's going to get his chances here today.
He makes it a 17-23 ball game. Covington coming from a good pedigree. Father played football at the University of Notre Dame. So an athlete runs in the family there. 4 seconds to work with by Peachtree Ridge. 3-pointers on the way. Count it.
They literally have hit everything they've shot from outside the arc right now. I know Eddie and his son Brenner on the sideline. This isn't exactly how we drew the scout up, man.
As we kind of look back at some of what we saw all first half, Aaron Augustin, the main spark plug for that, but the 3-ball was raining in bunches for Peachtree Ridge in the first quarter, as we see with that Aaron Augustin, a.k.a. Double A, having fun out here at the Jared Cook Classic.
Hey, it looked like some footwork right there. They used to teach there at Bogan Park. There,
oh,
Brandon.
man, he was smooth, man. Came right there off the side ball screen, pull up the nice 1-2. And you know what I love more than anything? Not only was the defender's hand down, didn't get to the screen, but after he hits the shot, he puts his hands down, man, straight into the holster. Gilbert Arenas like, bang, bang.
As we recognize some of our sponsors here for the Jared Cook Classic crossover. Coaches, let them break down your game film for you. Time's a commodity. Let them save you some. Gwinnett Daily Post. Check out GwinnettDailyPost.com for all things Gwinnett. Specifically, as far as prep sports are concerned, check out GwinnettPrepSports.com. CBA Sports, your sports construction specialist, the official sports floor provider of the SUV. And last but not least, CoachHemi.com. You can also catch our instant replays via the CoachHemi.com cam. Also, so it looks like we're ready to get the second quarter started. 17-26 ball game. Some hot shooting there in the first quarter by Peachtree Ridge.
Now, Marcus, I got to tell you, at one point it was, 20-8? But you got to give GAC a lot of credit for fighting and battling back to make this, a little bit closer ball game coming into the second quarter.
Here's a tray ball on the way for GAC. It's no good. Aaron Augustin with the rebound. Gonna try the floater game, and he gets the Gwinnett County roll.
Such good body control right there, Brandon, off of the catch, and then not to get the charge at that.
Well, that's just their second 2-point field goal of the game, ironically. They've got 8 3-pointers there in the first quarter.
Covington no good on the follow-up attempt there. Here's Hayward. Gonna stop and pop. Doesn't get the roll there. Another rebound in traffic by O'Brien. Covington gonna try the 3-ball. Too strong.
Well, this transition pace, I think, favors Peachtree Ridge if they're able to play like this the majority of the game. Just in terms of the longevity of the game, per se, Peachtree Ridge would rather play like this, almost frantic-like, and just be pulling stuff in transition like Hayward did and Aaron did, and just get up and down, where I think if you're Eddie Martin, you'd like for it to be a little bit slower pace, be able to call your stuff in the half-court set. What do you think, John?
I would agree with you. I wouldn't discredit the fact that Peachtree Ridge has been very efficient in the half court. They've been running their stuff pretty well and setting good screens. But with that said, I like the length that GAC has along the front line. So when you start talking about offensive and defensive rebounds, I would give the edge to GAC in that way.
Had a steal. Ball was left behind there. Now GAC has it, 3-pointer on the way. Coffey can't get it to go. Covington, he's been a rebounding machine, though the putbacks haven't gone his way early on.
He got caught underneath the rim, man, all dressed up with no place to go.
He's gonna send it back over to Peachtree Ridge. GAC will have a couple substitutions coming back into the game. Number 43, Jacob Hoffman, and number 2, Eric Jamison.
We didn't mention Hoffman much in the first quarter, but he gave them some good minutes, man. Productive, a guy who's able to offside rebound, provide. You talked about this, John, the length to be able to defend and close out there. That's tough.
Aaron Augustin has it all going. The 3-pointer, saw the floater game earlier. They're showing the mid-ranges in the repertoire as well.
They credit him for a 2 there, Marcus. A 19.5-foot 2-pointer there for Aaron Augustin.
Here's Jamison. Guarded by Eston. Also into the game for GAC, number 5, Jordan Washington. Augustin with the rebound. He'll push. And have a foul on the floor.
That's what I was talking about right there. John, I agree with you. I think Peachtree Ridge did a good job when they had to run some sets there in the half court. But ideally, man, they want to get the basketball push and try to make a play on the first or second pass as opposed to the fourth or fifth pass in the offense if they can do it.
Without a doubt, and they're not going to make 8 threes a quarter either, for the rest
I
of the
don't know.
game.
Don't count them out, man. The way that they're shooting this thing, man, they just might do it, man.
JS time says, boy, stop.
But you're right. I mean, those 2-point buckets are going to have to come from somewhere, and with GAC, playing that zone, they're going to have to get some easy buckets out in transition to continue to hold this lead. I would agree.
Well, it'll be interesting. I thought that the Jamison mid-post there for just that second was good. I saw him do some of that with the Atlanta All-Stars back on a backcourt during the spring tournament, one of the events that I was at, and watched him score the basketball on 3 straight possessions. He was teamed up with the Bruton kid there from Shiloh, Marcus, and it was just great basketball, a little inside-outside game, but they really used Bruton in that way that you're seeing a lot of those high-level college and pro teams use those swing forwards now in that 15-foot range, letting them catch it side shoulder the bucket and then be able to make a play from there.
Good defense there on that shot. Defense applied there by Miles Pate. Here's Augustine pulling up.
Man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
It's going to be a long night if he continues to hit those. I mean, it doesn't really matter what defense you're going to play because it's not like you can double team off of somebody because everybody else is hitting shots.
Jamison, high degree of difficulty shot there. He's off the mark. Here come the Lions the other way. Starks gets it ahead to Augustine.
Oh, what a great pass. Only thing you want to see him put that one in the air, but the decision there.
Jamison draws a lot of oohs and ahs there on that play. Use those long strides, unable to get the finish.
Things just have not gone very well for GAC at all. I mean, the rhythm, I mentioned that word earlier in the first quarter. Even they get an opportunity there out on the break and they can't convert. And they even have a 3-on-1 break and get the offensive rebound, just fall out of bounds. Just some unfortunate things here early on for the Spartans.
4 minutes, 8 seconds left to play here in the second quarter. And, Brandon, what do you see as some things that maybe GAC can do differently as they're, trying to offset this barrage?
You know what, and this goes back to the whole armchair quarterback thing. Absolutely nothing. Survive this barrage and pray to God that Peachtree Ridge doesn't make 11 three-pointers in the second half, 8 of which are contested with a hand in the face. At some point, basketball is a chess game. Right now, Coach Martin has done a great job of putting his pieces in place. You've seen them be about a half second off offensively, whether it's fumbling the pass, the Jamison play a second ago, and Peachtree Ridge has been exactly on time with everything that they've done. How many times does GAC during the course of a season have a team hit 8 3-pointers on them in a quarter, follow it up with 3 3-pointers before they can blink in the second? It just doesn't happen. So I think they just got to continue to do what they do and put themselves in the spot. If they're going to hit that shot all night, they're going to lose by 30. It just is what it is. You just bank on them not hitting that shot all night.
As JS time continuing to show some of that work in the offseason pay off. Was able to see a lot of his development in the summer firsthand. Easy layup drill for Aaron Augustine.
Oh, and it's interesting. I talked to a college coach, John, earlier in the week, a high major assistant coach. And we were talking about Aaron Augustine. We were talking about Jared Harper. And, the response to me is, well, I really like those guys. They're skilled. Do you think they're big enough to play on our level? My response was the next time you see a 6'3" point guard post one of those guys up 4 times in a row for scores will be the first time. He laughed and said, you're absolutely right. I'll make sure I get on the line with him this week.
Well, flipping the page here, Coach Martin doesn't like what he sees from his team right now. They're getting a little impatient. There's been multiple possessions now where they've made one pass, shoot the quick 3. Even though Boyd's a knockdown shooter, I think still you've got to get the ball reversed to the second side, to the third side. You got to get that rhythm just by running your offense a little bit. And what you see more times than not, when you take a bad shot, a long shot leads to a long rebound, which leads to exactly what we see right there. And Aaron Augustine, fast break layup.
As everybody's into it, Peachtree Ridge having a good time. We see our crowd having a good time thanks to DJ Webb with the music that we've got going on here at the Jared Cook Classic also. And, it's like we talked about in the first game, Buford got off to a very large lead, and you talked about being impartial at the end of the day, from the view that we have, but you still want to see it be a good game to see both teams compete.
Oh,
Not rooting against GAC, but I say that to say we're not used to seeing GAC as a program in these type of situations.
Normally, GAC is on the right side of this score, man. I don't know that I can tell you the last time that I've seen GAC, even this early in the game, be on the wrong side of the score this way.
And as you've said before, Marcus, the closer games, the good competition, it tells you a lot more about what you have in your team and everything else. So, and again, you see Peachtree Ridge, it's a half-court execution. They get the corner cut, the diagonal screen, the double down, and then they hit the three. I mean, what can you do?
17-44 ball game. As I think Peachtree Ridge had that Space Jam juice right before the game.
Yeah, seriously. Well, you know what it reminds me of, the ebb and the flow of the game, honestly, is the Kansas-Kentucky men's game the other night. Kentucky could literally do no wrong. Kansas doing what I'm sure they do every single day in practice that works, and it's going to work in 98% of the games this year, and it just didn't work. Unfortunately for them, it was on a large stage, nationally televised early in the year, so they couldn't hide from it. But Bill Self's press conference was great. Man, I might put something to drink here in this bottle, man, And I'm sure right now that's one of those moments that you have as a coach, and we've all been there, myself, you, Jonathan, when you're just sitting there and there's not much you can do with the given moment. You just got to wait the storm out.
Yeah, unfortunately, Coach Martin was on the other side of the court when I felt this. His teams in Norcross, were so high level, not only in talent, athleticism, but in execution as well too. But it's still early in the season, and no doubt that Coach Martin's going to use this as a teaching lesson, as a barometer, moving forward with this team.
Well, that was a nice cut there. I talked a minute ago about wanting to get Jamison in some space around that 15-foot mark and let him be able to make a play from there, because I think he's a tough matchup. There aren't going to be 7 to 10 guys with his size and athleticism that they'll see during the course of the season, and I think that was a prime example. And now you get him to the line for some easy points, hopefully help get him into the rhythm. And if nothing else, you would love to get this game back into a manageable 15-point margin or so here before the half ends, and then look to cut it to 7 or 8 by the end of the third. So you just got to take it bits and pieces at this point and get yourself back in the game.
Exactly what we saw Alpharetta do in the first game to come back. Ended up losing at the buzzer. But got to take it piece by piece. Augustine going to get it over to Collins.
Another three.
Christian Collins.
Goodness gracious.
Easily one of the best high school shooting displays in terms of a half that I've seen at any point in the 13 years that I've been involved with grassroots basketball. This is incredible.
Coffey comes back with the bucket.
That was a great move, too. Great attack.
Here's Augustine behind the back, elbow jumper. That one won't go down for him. Working hard on the inside and then paying off Christian Collins. He's got the last 5 points for Peachtree Ridge. Boyd for 3. Off the front of the rim.
That's exactly what you talked about there, John. You're struggling to score it. Swing it, get the ball reversal, get it to the second side, and then play it from there. Don't force your issue unless you've got a layup, and Jamison now does the same thing. I'm sure Coach Martin's not going to be happy with that. When you talk about the adjustment, Marcus, I'm sure that will be the adjustment at the half. That's not what GAC does. That's not what we're accustomed to seeing. Those aren't even the shots that Boyd was hitting early in the game, where the ball was getting reversed, getting swung back, and hitting him on the left side of the floor.
Yeah, those quick shots, and especially that one, it just had the force feel to it, and he was several steps beyond the arc. And at least a long rebound and just an easy 2-on-1 coming back the other direction.
It's been tough as Jamison, frustrated trying to get things going. Really, the only shots that GAC has been able to get has been when he's drawn some attention and kicked out for a 3. The 3's not falling, and these long rebounds is really just an outlet pass for Aaron Augustine. We've got under 40 seconds left to play here in the first half. Peachtree Ridge probably going to hold for the last shot of the first half here.
It'll probably be a 3. And this is a great opportunity here early in the season for Coach Arrington. You talk about half-court execution. This is great game film against a really good team defensively. Can we execute in the half court to close out quarters?
Jamison blocks that out of there. They'll have time to get a shot up. It will count if it goes, and it does.
Hey, nice presence of mind right there by Jamison. He glanced up at the clock, saw that there was a second and a half left, takes one more step, floats it in. And at least for the Spartans right here, they get a little positive note here.
Yeah, haven't been a whole lot of bright spots for GAC there in the first half, but as we see the CoachHemi.com replay cam, you see Jamison racing against the clock.
That's
good
beautiful.
wherewithal to finish the floater. GAC ends on a note they hope to start the second half on.
Hey, Hemi, you got your own replay cam. How dope is that, man?
Appreciate you joining us here on SUVtv. We're going to go ahead and send it to halftime. Thanks for watching the Jarrett Cook Classic here on SUVtv.
Crossover intelligence for basketball can save you hours of time. We break down and stat your game film for you and act as your video coordinator by giving you searchable clips, advanced statistics, shot charts, and a lot of other great info that you can access from any PC or through our iPad application. Just upload your video through the Crossover website, and 24 hours later, your film will be completely indexed and tagged. Each play will become its own video clip, allowing you to search the footage for anything you'd like. Here we'll take a look at all 3-pointers that were made in the fourth quarter. All of your offensive and defensive sets can also be tagged, so you can view the appropriate clips and determine which plays are achieving the best results. You can add any clip to a playlist or highlight reel and share everything with your players or assistant coaches. Crossover will also provide you with all of the numbers from each game, including complete player stats for both teams and advanced metrics like these. We even take the shooting numbers a step further with an interactive shot chart that lets you visualize the data. Filter by player, quarter, makes or misses, and click on any shot to watch the corresponding video. Crossover intelligence will keep you from spending hours in the film room and get you back to actually coaching. Together, we can turn smarter video into more wins for your team. That's the crossover effect.
Appreciate you joining us back here as we are seconds away from starting the second half here of the Jared Cook Classic. That's benefiting the Susan G. Komen for the Cure. Be sure to support them during and outside of this event. Also, special thanks to Crossover, the official analytics provider of the SUV coaches. Let Crossover break down your game film for you and save you time. Also, the Gwinnett Daily Post, the SUVtv's media partner here for the Jared Cook Classic, and more specifically, Gwinnett Prep Sports. Check out all things at Gwinnett High School Sports there at GwinnettPrepSports.com. And last but not least, the official sports construction specialist of the SUV, CBA Sports. They've created a lot of the floors for some of the best basketball venues in the Southeast and the country, including McCamish Pavilion at Georgia Tech, the University of Georgia, their gymnasium, as well as Phillips Arena, where the Atlanta Hawks play. I'm Marcus Burnett. I'm joined by J.L. Hemingway and Brandon Clay as we get ready to start the third quarter here. As you can see, it's a hefty advantage right now for Peachtree Ridge over GAC. Brandon, give us your thoughts on the game at this point.
Quick assist to my man Guy from Gwinnett Daily Post Sports. 13 for 15 from beyond the arc in the first half for Peachtree Ridge. Like, that's the free throw percentage of, like, Steph Curry. That's incredible, you know? I mean, for a team to shoot that well, those are just extremely abnormal numbers. So I think in synopsis, 13 for 15 from the three-point line, and there's a reason why the score is what it is. I do think, though, what we touched on at the end of the first half, Marcus, GAC's got to be patient. They've got to play their basketball. If they're going to go down, they go down swinging their way and not trying to match Peachtree Ridge 3 for 3 on first pass threes.
You see Jamison catch that one in traffic. Nice little touch and the teardrop.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brandon. GAC can't panic here. And regardless of what happens, regardless of what Peachtree Ridge does, regardless if they go 13 for 15 again or if they go 1 for 15, you want to play the way that you want to play. And you want to set yourself up, you know, for the rest of the season, you know, understanding what my role is, you know, on this team, how do we want to play, where are our shots going to come from, and then just let it play out, you know, from there, because ultimately that's what you're playing for. You know, it would be great to get a win tonight, but more importantly, you want to prepare yourself for that.
So your buckets are contagious, and we're seeing this team pick up where it left off as we see the turnaround and the splash there by Isaiah Starks.
That's a heck of a shot, man. You catch the ball with your back to the basket. Nice little ball fake. No bounce needed. Turn, fade, jumper. That's tough, man. I mean, once again, we go back to the how do you defend that. Hand up, contest, shot made. Unfortunately for him, that's his third foul, man. So right after a great play, picks up the third on the other end. He'll have to sit probably for the remainder of the quarter at this point. But the way they've been playing, whoever comes in will probably do the same thing.
Jamison with the crossover and the move leaves it short. But good hustle there on the offensive glass. That's Jacob Hoffman for GAC.
That's big. That guy's going to be productive for them all year playing like that. He plays hard. He's clapping. They're down 25, and he's really still trying to get everybody engaged. I really like what Hoffman brings to their team.
He reminds me a lot of Keaton Gibson from Buford.
Yes.
You know, that same type of glue and energy kid. You got to have those type of guys. You know, you can't, as good as it would be to have 5 scorers, 5 guys that can all shoot and score, and, you know, ultimately you're going to need a couple of role players.
Good shot there by Boyd for the 3. I tell you what, though, and you two are on the group message. Y'all can attest to this. The iPhone group message that we've got where we were talking about Cleveland's struggles per se today, where they don't have a Battier, you know, or Udonis Haslam, one of those guys when they were in their prime in Miami, you know, in terms of the production. So in a lot of ways, even for a team that has 3 bona fide Olympians, they still need guys like Hoffman to come in and be productive. So I think regardless of the level, that's a specific skill in and of itself. Kenneth Farid has made a living off of doing that.
Birdman Anderson, you know, with him and
no
you know,
question.
In Miami filled that, you know, for sure. I made the reference to Rokas Gutius from Oak Hill Academy.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
back in the first broadcast. He now signed with Hofstra, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're absolutely right.
And I was talking about how he really got under Jalil Okafor's skin, up there at Hoop Hall. And there's a place for that, because you can't have, 5 guys all out there that want to shoot and score. You need somebody to block out, to defend, Ultimately, you want all 5 of you guys to do that, but there needs to be that one leader that can kind of get everybody going.
Well, when that happens, you get your points from different places. You look at Hoffman with the offensive rebound. It's not that those guys aren't scorers. They just score in a different way than usually the ball coming directly through them for the score.
Hayward spins, gets that shot for Pate. It's off the mark. Jamison with the rebound. Boyd from the corner.
I tell you what, the next 2 minutes of this game are really big. I talked about if you were GAC wanting this thing to sit somewhere around that 7 to 10 mark at the end of the third, and now you're down 19. The offensive foul here, the momentum for the first time in a long time is shifting GAC's way. Can they get this thing down to about 12 with 3 minutes to go and then play it from there, trying to get it right there around single digits to start the fourth?
Good point, Brandon. And I must point out the 3 that Boyd takes right there from the corner is much different from the 3 that he took in the first half because there was rhythm with it. There was penetration, a kick, and then the extra pass, as opposed to, just one pass and shoot. And it makes all the difference a lot of times with the shooter.
We're seeing momentum tipping towards GAC, and you touched on it, Brandon, when you said no need for GAC to panic, and kind of talked about how it's easy for everybody to play armchair quarterback or armchair coach. When a team shoots 13 or 15 against you in the first half, who else can come in and remedy that?
From beyond the arc, no less. Yeah. It's not like that was 13 or 15 even from the field. You had to weather the storm. The storm could go all game. That part you don't know. But it looks like for the first time in about 20 minutes of play that there's some daylight here now for GAC, and this is a perfect time for them to capitalize. They've got to make free throws, they've got to make layups, and they've got to make open shots.
And I'd like to add, too, and I mentioned the 2 coaches at the beginning of the broadcast. Coach Eddie Martin has a system of play. These guys know exactly what they're supposed to do. So, once things do start to, roll their way, the system of play, will be able to take over, and those kids will be able to make plays, within their roles.
And everything very, is going to continue to remain very jump shot heavy for Peachtree Ridge, as we see a strong take there by Coffey, and he gets the and 1 to go. But they say a funny thing about that three-pointer: live by it, die by it. We saw Peachtree Ridge flourish by it in the first half. Second half remains to be seen, but for now, GAC definitely looking more comfortable.
They got to hit free throws. That's 0 for 3 now. Three chances to be able to put points on the board. You make 2 of those even, and now you're talking about a 15-point game. You put yourself back in.
Nice drive there. Brandon, you talked about the transition game in the first half. It appears that GAC is pretty comfortable playing this up-tempo game, too.
Good play there by Jamison in the finish. And earlier on, we talked about that. Jamison sat for a while in the first half. And, I think player for player, depth for depth, obviously it's something Peachtree Ridge will be more comfortable with. But I do think, definitely here in the 3-minute stretch, down darn near 20, GAC, we got to push it. We've got to create some opportunities, maybe even create a little chaos and try to get ourselves back into this basketball game.
They're taking a break. We're going to take a break with them. DJ Webb rocking in the background. You're watching the Jared Cook Classic here on SUVtv. We're ready to resume play after the timeout. Baseline drive. Good ball movement there by Peachtree Ridge, passing up the open 3. There was Tatum, can't get the 2 to go. And it looks like he's going to pick up the foul.
Really like this combo of Covington and Jamison in the middle of the floor. You talked about the transition game, and with both of those, either starting the break with the defensive rebound or finishing the break, by pushing it up the court. They might be the 2 best athletes on the court. Even though Peachtree Ridge, does have its fair amount of athleticism, those 2 guys, respectively, are problems. They're tough matchups.
40-57.
It's got to be a flare screen for Boyd. Yep. That's awesome. Feels Jamison.
Yep.
That's great. You let Jamison be the screener there on the flare screen so that he becomes the roller on that second cut there, John. That's great action, man.
Horns flare screen. You can find that at CoachHemme.com.
As they thought they were going to get another offensive foul on Augustine, instead it's going to go against Coffey. That'd be Coffey's first personal foul. Here's Hayward creating space. Shot won't go down for him. Nice job by Boyd. He's just snatching that one away. Coffey has it.
Oh, nice.
Jamison for three.
First pass three, man. First pass three. Take a second, gather yourself. You know, they haven't been able to make that second run. They made the first run now to get it back into 15, and you see Coach Martin is not a happy camper right now about that last possession.
Nice defense by Hayward as he stuffs the shot. Augustine checks the rearview mirror, goes in to lay it up.
That's great hustle there on Hayward's part.
Yep.
Makes the play, doesn't give up on the play, give up the layup, assuming that Aaron's going to make that. He stays with it and then is able to put the tip in.
Connor Hayward, the 6-foot sophomore guard.
Coach Arrington is all the way over here with us coaching them on defense right now. I absolutely love it. Up 19, coaching as if they're down 19. This is great.
We're going to have a foul there. It's going to send Jamison to the free throw line. A lot of good rivalries in the state of Georgia. Some of these inner Gwinnett County rivalries, some of the best you'll find.
Coach Arrington spent a number of years, I believe, in the Augusta area before he got the job at Peachtree Ridge, and I've just always been very impressed with how he gets these guys to play hard. He's coached a number of, Division I athletes over the years, and he keeps it real simple, but still manages to put his kids in positions to make plays. And I think that, from a coaching standpoint, that's all that you can ask for, really.
Well, tonight's a great example. The three-point percentage withstanding. Just that right there. The freedom for a young man to know that he can make that shot, and he's not looking over his shoulder for coach yelling at him. It's a tough shot, but it's a quality shot because of who's taking it. There's Hoffman again. Boy, he's tough, man. I just like everything about that kid, man. Takes good shots, not forcing the issue. If he gets a look, he can knock it down. He's a great complementary player and should be effective for GAC all year long.
Has the ball in his hands now. Got caught in the air. Jumping the pass there. Here's Augustine. Hesitates for a second, changes speeds, leaves that one just short. Here's Boyd the other way, cross court.
Whoa.
Three.
It's always nice when you find a guy you hadn't really seen like that, and you're able to appreciate his game firsthand, man. That's what I'm doing. Even inside of what's been a tough night, GAC's only down 14 with a minute to go in the third. They literally are a stop and a basket away from being right into that zone where we talked about, man. Right there around the single-digit mark to start the fourth quarter.
The last three was knocked down by number 43, of course, Jacob Hoffman. Two substitutions for Peachtree Ridge. Back into the game, number 11, Mills Tatum, and number 24, Markel McCullum. Also back in for GAC, guard, number 20, Brian Coffey. Cam Boyd gonna get a breather. 58.6 seconds left to play here in the third quarter.
Big defensive possession right here for the Spartans. As you mentioned, Brandon, trying to get this thing to single digits going into the fourth quarter. Going to need to stop right here. Look at the passing.
Moving it around, yeah.
The ball didn't even hit the floor, and it went from side to side.
Tatum for three. Jamison going to pick up the foul there.
I definitely want to take a minute to shout out Isaiah Wilkes, man. Just sent out a tweet saying that he's watching the game here on SUVtv. Elite 60 prospect, BrandonClayScouting.com now, freshman at the University of Virginia, and a darn good player. He could have sure helped GAC this evening.
Most definitely, man. It's weird doing the GAC webcast on SUVtv without seeing the Trojan Mohawk.
It's been a long time, man. I'm not sure how I
man.
feel about it, man. Morrison being here front row makes me feel a little bit better about it, man. But still, definitely missing that young fella. Best of luck to you along the way this year, Isaiah.
So we've got 35.5 seconds left to play here in the third quarter.
Well, it's interesting. You hear Cam Boyd here right in front of us. You could tell he comes from a lineage of coaches. His father, his Uncle David. They've got 7 fouls, get to the bucket. They're going to be in the bonus the rest of the way, GAC is. So, and I say a young man, obviously a senior, but for a young prospect to understand that already and be imploring his teammates, hey, let's get to the rim, let's get to the rim, shows a lot of maturity on his part.
25 seconds and counting. Boy has it up top, gonna pull it. Just off the mark. The ball back over to Peachtree Ridge. They got 17.2 seconds to work with.
Hey, a shooter shoots, man. That's what they do.
Yeah, agree. Well, and you know what's interesting? I saw him pat his chest as if to say, my bad. You know, he always feels like the next one is going in, and I know as a shooter yourself, John, you can appreciate that. But I do think understanding, especially as good as Coach Martin is, if I swing the ball and give us a chance maybe to get another one, I'll get a flare screen. I'll get something a little bit easier than this contested 25-footer I'm taking.
Three-pointer. Nothing but the bottom of the net there.
Tough, especially with the time left. 14 seconds. It gives Peachtree Ridge one last possession. That's a tough way to end the quarter right there for the Spartans.
Get another one. I'll get a flare screen. I'll get something a little bit easier than this contested 25-footer I'm taking.
But Peachtree Ridge still shooting lights out. Number 23, Jeremiah starts. Ends the third quarter the same way they ended the first. 49-66 as we take a break. When we get back, we'll bring you more action here on SUVtv live at the Jared Cook Classic.
Just got this in on the wire, Marcus. Want to shout out Kyvon Davenport from East Hall, an EBA All-American, attended all 3 EBA camps this season. 36 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocks this evening. High school coach Joe Dix has been a huge supporter of all the things that we've got going on, and we'll be there for the Tuesday night showcase on January 20th.
Hey, looking forward to it. You know, you talk about Hall County, a lot of rich heritage there in that area. Being from Indiana myself, when you talk about Lanier Land and some of those elements, a very Hoosier-like setting there in Hall County.
No question. Nothing like a good Friday night, good Tuesday night, or good Saturday night at East Hall Gym with the E-Hall chant going on, man. The little kids running around in the little E-Hall jerseys. You can't beat it, man.
49-66 as we start the fourth quarter. Hemi, give me some of the keys to the game and different dynamics you're going to be looking for here in this fourth quarter.
Well, I think it always starts with defense and free throw shooting, quite honestly. Both, well, you know, GAC is in the bonus, and you see them right here going to the free throw line. They've left some points, you know, out there on the court by missing some free throws. They're going to get some opportunities, but, you know, it starts with defensive stops regardless. And, you know, you've got to defend, but you've got to finish plays by getting rebounds.
A couple opportunities there to capitalize by GAC. Shot won't stay down. Augustin going to get called for the double dribble there.
And conversely for Peachtree Ridge, you know, for them to, you know, finish strong here in this fourth quarter and come away with a win, it starts with taking care of the basketball. You know, the easiest way to let somebody else into a game is, you know, careless turnovers, quick shots, giving them easy, you know, points the other direction. So it's pretty simple, but at the same time, it's not always very simple to execute.
Jamison will get it over to Boyd.
story of the night there for GAC, honestly, is they get called for the illegal screen. Every time it looks like they're going to have an opportunity to make a play to get this thing back into single digits, they've struggled to be able to find a way to make it happen. You know, we had cut the deficit there, was hovering around the 15 mark. They had a little momentum, looked like they were going to be able to make a play and get that thing down to 12, and just haven't been able to do it so far.
Good pass by Boyd.
Great hustle. Great hustle on the interior there by Covington.
You see what GAC is doing here. They're doing a little full court run and jump. And inevitably what's going to happen when you run and jump, you're going to leave somebody open, and Peachtree Ridge just happened to knock down the open three-point jumper.
GAC loses that ball out of bounds, so it's going to go back over to Peachtree Ridge. The advantage now 18.
Let's watch them here. Let's see what they're doing. They're double teaming. Or they were double teaming Augustin off of the inbound.
Augustin with the dish. Shot won't go the first time. Second time's a charm there. Jeremiah Starks.
They did a very good job, Peachtree Ridge, that is, of passing the basketball, making the extra pass, be able to break out of those traps.
Garrett Covington, also a good three-point shooter for GAC. Gets his first three-pointer of the game.
Here comes the run and jump, then the diagonal pass.
Great diagonal. Are you kidding me? Put it where only his receiver could go and get it, man. That looked like Aaron Rodgers putting that thing in the back of the end zone to Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb.
54-73. We want to take some time to recognize some of the sponsors that have made this event and this webcast possible here on SUVtv. The first of which being Jared Cook himself, tight end for the St. Louis Rams, throwing this event in honor of his mother, as well as Susan G. Coleman for the Cure. Also Crossover, the official basketball analytics provider of the SUV. Coaches spend a lot of time in the film room. Let Crossover spend that time for you. The Gwinnett Daily Post, more specifically the local sports arm of the Gwinnett Daily Post, Gwinnett Prep Sports. And last but not least, CBA Sports, the official sports construction specialist of the SUV. So it's a 19-point deficit faced by the Spartans, 5:57 left to play here in the fourth quarter. As we get ready to start, got a lot of familiar faces. You talked about Isaiah Wilkins of GAC, and you also mentioned one of his former running mates, and Troy Morrison. You see him over there courtside, catching the game in. Also with Ahmad Caver and Owen Lewis, two former North Gwinnett Bulldogs. So a lot of people coming in to enjoy the Jared Cook Classic, even though they've left this level of basketball.
I definitely want to shout out Caver. His commitment to Old Dominion will do a fine job there, man. I heard he had a quality weekend at a prep showcase held by Adam Finkelstein, one of our counterparts there up in the Northeast. Does an excellent job with his service and his coverage of the game. Also does some things with ESPN. Shout out to Adam, and then also shout out to Ahmad.
54-73, and Brandon, you touched on how a lot of times guys will judge guys by their stature as far as their output and their production. I think Ahmad Caver is another one of those guys you could put in the folder as far as that's concerned.
No question. Well, fortunately for him, and also fortunately for their staff, because they've got a jewel in him. Old Dominion didn't do that. You know, they took it at face value, took the production for what it is and for what it was and what we projected to be. Definitely was a guy that we had in our service, and definitely a guy that we expect to do big things at the next level.
Twitter handle, get like Mod. That's not bad, not bad advice.
Stunning is a habit, man.
You see Augustin with it out top, guarded by Coffee. Just over 5 minutes left to play.
And you see Peachtree Ridge spreading the floor out here, Marcus, trying to make it tough. Take some clock off, but also to, get some shots, try to get to the rim, continue to make some plays and stretch this lead out.
Boyd was able to step right into that one. Thought it was on the mark. Jamison fighting on the offensive glass, but it's Augustin that comes away with the rebound. It's over to Hayward. Tatum tries to spin away, but nice hands by Boyd. Coffee has it.
Good move, and that's what we're talking about. I know he hasn't had the greatest of games, but we're high on Brian Coffey, and for good reason. As you see plays like that, he's only going to continue to get better. This is obviously a big stage and a big matchup, with Augustine and these Peachtree Ridge guards here for the sophomore, and learning how to direct a new offense. Playing point guard for Eddie Martin is a little different than playing point guard for other people. I know you mentioned Sam Allen's BCB earlier. Sam Allen actually played for Eddie when he was at Brookwood coaching back in the day. I remember multiple YMCA battles, man, with Sam Allen, and he used to always talk about the preparation and the way that they approached and attacked things over there at Brookwood and how it was much more intense and advanced than some of the other people out and about at the time on the coaching circle. So definitely a tough spot for Coffey to be in, but he's going to rise to the occasion. No doubt this young man should have a fine season and the rest of his career here at Spartan.
And Brandon, for those that might not be from around this area or have been under a rock as it pertains to Georgia high school basketball, kind of summarize the track record of Eddie Martin.
Well, Eddie Martin actually was at Brookwood. This was before Gwinnett basketball was big, and we'll kind of walk you through that. In the 80s, the 90s really got rolling, had a team, honestly, with Sam, and then kind of rolled into another crew there in the early part of the 2000s. His son, Brent, was a part of the program there at Brookwood. They were ranked in the top 25 in the country by USA Today at one point. Burkmar was at their height. Tony Aiken and some of those guys that had come through, Wayne Arnold that ended up going to Georgia for a minute. So the basketball here was great, and then obviously there was a young man named Lewis Williams at South Gwinnett. At that point in time, Eddie had moved over to Norcross, had great talent there. Jody Meeks, who's still in the league, Gonnie Lawal, who's playing professionally. A lot of different guys were in the mix there. And he just has done a great job everywhere he's been. Went to GAC after he retired from the Gwinnett County Public School System and has had some players over there. We talked about Wilkins. Malcolm Brogdon's having a fine career at Virginia. A.J. Davis, who didn't finish there but was there for a minute, is now at Central Florida. So they've got guys up and down the Eastern Seaboard who can credit Coach Martin for a lot of their development at the prep level.
Hemi, you've been a part of some very influential coaching lines and coaching families as well. Just talk about that kind of impact that, being around and working with those types of guys provide.
Well, I mentioned earlier with Coach Martin and GAC, the system of play. And I think that when you talk about that, there's an expectation to the level of play that you come out onto the court. You play a certain way, you give a certain type of effort, you behave a certain way, you carry yourself a certain way, and just kind of that backbone to a program is so important. And then, looking at it from a bigger standpoint, the whole family. I was fortunate enough to work for legendary the late Don Meyer at Lipscomb University.
Oh, that's a great move there.
And just having that support system of literally coaches across the nation, that are always there for you, at just a phone call away, a text away, an email away. And the same is true of Coach Martin and his, coaching network, here in Georgia as well. For instance, Andy Blackson at Madison Academy, texted me, early this morning. He's going to be playing, here in Georgia.
Yes, he is at Hoops Giving over there. Yeah. Josh Langford, who was in the BrandonClayScouting.com Elite 60 in 2016. Please believe I'll be there for the 6:15 matchup nenext Friday night.
Yeah, Andy Blackson coaches the Madison Academy, and Josh Langford, looking for, some scouting tapes and things like that. And, he knows that he's got that connection. So, with Coach Martin and the entire program here at GAC and broader, you're a part of something much bigger than even just your school or even just this class. You're a part of a family that stretches all the way back, as you mentioned, Brandon, back into the 90s and beyond.
And, at Gwinnett County Basketball Media Day, you talk about Coach Martin, but even when you look at Coach Arrington, they're on the other side for Peachtree Ridge. A lot of, one common thread with all of the coaches I talked to at the Basketball Media Day was their respect for the other coaches in this Gwinnett County area. You talk about Coach Arrington. You also got Coach McMillan over there at Norcross, who came up under Coach Eddie Martin's tutelage. You've got recently just moved in and have his first season over at Collins Hill from Olympic.
Yep.
Ty Baumgartner.
Coach Baumgartner, and that's just, and not to mention got to give a mention also to Coach Brandon Mayweather, even at Central Gwinnett, and what they're doing.
Yeah, I coached for several years here in Gwinnett, at Duluth High School, and then most recently at Lanier. And anytime I got onto the bench, there was never a time in which I looked down and I said, you know what, I think I can out-coach this guy tonight. it just wouldn't happen. Now, I came from other places. I coached in Tennessee for a little while, and there were times when I felt, if we're even, I know that I can out-coach the other person down there. But coming in Gwinnett, no. You're gonna have to have a Malcolm Brogdon, or you're gonna have to have an Isaiah Wilkins in order to win 20 games in a season.
No, I agree with that. That's a nice finish there from Boyd. I've really been impressed with his play tonight. We talked about a couple of rush shots, but shooters feel it, especially when you're down and you're trying to get your team back in. But I talked about his progression, I thought physically, but his progression even mentally, to understand when and where to take shots, his ability now to finish in traffic, to finish in the lane. He's just doing some more diverse things than he was earlier on in his career, and he really has played himself into a guy. I mean, he's played probably 26 to 27 minutes of this game, and he wasn't in a position to do that even 12 months ago.
Pass nearly stolen there by Covington. Unable to keep his feet inbound, so it will stay with Peachtree Ridge.
Well, we would be remiss not to mention Coach Martin's bench as well, too, Brandon. Coach Joe Morelli over there being the assistant for Coach Martin. Of course, Coach Morelli for years, coached for years at Duluth High School, has the gymnasium.
I was about to say, heck, his name's on the gym, man. He was a great guy. He was there when I got my start over there, and has just been a huge advocate for what we do. Not only with Peach State basketball, but also things like the SUVtv, any opportunities that you can give young men. And we talk about the player lineage that comes from Joe Morelli. Yeah. Kendrick Jones is still playing overseas, was a big-time guard for him in the days of T.J. Lee and in the late 90s that I was talking about. And Kendrick is still overseas collecting the check as a professional, once again in large part to Joe Morelli. He's battled through illness and all kinds of different things in which we thought he might not be with us, and he's fought and he's still right here. He's still working his behind off. He was over here on Saturday night scouting, John.
Yeah, I spoke to him before one of the games, and just one of the great guys in the county. Always quick with a smile, quick with an encouraging word, and I remember that memorial when they named the gym after him, and just the outpouring from that community. That was back in 2003. And here we are, 11 years later, and he's still here and he's still coaching. And quite honestly, I'm proud to call Joe Morelli a friend of mine.
That's awesome, man.
And Brandon, you talked about Holiday Hoops Giving, where Langford and them will be playing this Friday. Be sure to stick in with SUVtv this weekend. We'll have Holiday Hoops Giving on that Friday and Saturday. We'll also have the Hardwood Slam Showcase over at North Atlanta, which will also have Harry Giles and some solid teams playing there. But then Brandon will also join us for our coverage of the Lighthouse Classic from Corinth, Mississippi, a matchup that'll feature Miller Grove and Alterique Gilbert versus Malik Newman and Callaway.
I was thinking about that a little earlier today. I actually had started to craft up a prospect evaluation on young Alterique Gilbert that we'll post to peachstatebasketball.com during the course of the day tomorrow in preparation for the big weekend. I already have plenty of material on peachstatebasketball.com on Mr. Malik Newman. Got him sitting in the top 5 in the BrandonClayScouting.com Elite 100 in the class of 2015. And if you have not seen this young man play a full game, not highlights, not shout out to Courtside Films or Elite Mixtapes, but not one of those, a full game where he has the opportunity to control the team at the point, playing off the ball, he really gets it done. And this should be a real challenge and a real treat to watch Coach Sharman White and his Miller Grove 6-Pete go up against Malik Newman.
Can't beat it.
Now, Sharman's as good as they come. I was actually out in Colorado. John was with me out there, and we had the opportunity to speak to Coach White, and he just does such a fantastic job now doing coaching clinics all over the country, and he's really earned it. And anytime you can win 6 titles in anything, I don't care if you're playing kids that are all 4'5", man, you got to beat somebody, and they've done it against the best of the best. He doesn't back down from anybody, and Saturday night's just another example of that.
Ooh, nice finish, Coffee.
that young man's got a chance now. I'm telling y'all, man, I just have really enjoyed watching his progression. You best believe he's going to have an invitation to the Elite Basketball Academy, Top 40 workout, Super 64 camp, All-American camp, everything we're doing. We want Brian Coffey involved, man, first-class individual.
He's getting more involved in this game as they're down by 14. Minute 27 left. GAC just trying to finish strong. We appreciated those of you that joined us for our first game tonight, which features Alpharetta versus Buford, a game in which Buford won at the buzzer. So we'll call Buford the cardiac kids as far as this tournament is concerned. Had a come-from-behind win in day one, and here they win at the buzzer in day two. You gentlemen's thoughts on Trey Hansborough and what the high-octane guard has been able to do for Buford?
Boy, he was tough today. Coach Whitehart did a great job displaying him in that dribble drive offense, and he gets that defender in an island. He can go either direction. We talked about it already. His ability to change speeds and change directions puts the defenders, almost looking like that they're in concrete. But very impressive today, especially in the first half. His ability to dish off and get other people involved too.
He just showed an ability to get to the rim. I thought that was the most impressive thing. I heard a lot about his ability to make jumpers, and I see that. But I really think that long-term, it's his combination of being able to get into the second level there, 12 to 15 feet, make a play, finished it well around the rim. He's not an elite uber athlete, but he's a good enough athlete to complete plays at the basket. And at the next level, even a guy like Jamison with the basketball going to Gardner-Webb, you look at guys that are going to Gardner-Webb and going to play in the Big South, and right on cue, Jamison heard me. Once again, he had the earbuds in, he heard me. When you can make plays and complete plays at the rim, also hit the mid-range shot, and then keep the defense honest with the three-pointer. If you tell me you've got Hansborough complimenting Jamison wing to wing, I'm going to tell you you've got a pretty good backcourt, assuming that your point guard is a guy like a Brian Coffey. You've done a great job. So I definitely think that he can play at that level.
57.8 seconds left.
That's a tough move there by Jamison in transition. The finish to the left hand, I think he jumped off I don't know if he jumped off the left foot or not, but regardless, it was kind of an awkward body control thing. He's got so much physical talent. And I know that's one of the things that Coach Martin's going to, his goal for him this year, kind of even out that skill set for him to become a little bit more consistent. But he's a terrific athlete and sure does project to give some quality minutes up there at Gardner-Webb.
When he's a guy, too, I think on the perimeter could be, an excellent defensive stopper. One of the notes that I made from the tournament that I saw him in, actually, tournament hosted by our good friends over there at Swanee Sports Academy, is that he can defend the 1 through the 3. He really can defend any of the 3 perimeter positions, number 2, Eric Jamison, that is, and that alone makes him an intriguing prospect with value, let alone the fact that he's able to make the moves like he just made, finishing there at the rim with either hand, and then also being able to use him in that pinch post or mid post, depending on how you want to play it offensively and what sets you've gone to CoachHenby.com, scooped and scored.
If you're not checking out sets on CoachHenby.com, and you must have the oracle as far as coaching is concerned, because if you've got an infinite number of plays to where you don't need that resource, then kudos to you. But for those that need the type of sets and information CoachHenby.com provides, we encourage you guys to go visit there. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, we really worked hard on that, me and Aaron Shuck, over the past 12 months to load that up with just a lot of different resources, not only X's and O's, but also coaching notes and such. And we've really worked hard to organize it to where, if you've got a kid like Jamison, you can go to the forward tab and it will aggregate it, and that's such. You need a play for Brian Coffey, well, you go to the point guard tab, and you're going to be able to see a number of different things.
That's got to be the coach's source, man. CoachHenby.com cover sets. I know you can spend a lot of time in the lab. I watch you and Aaron's Twitter, see all the time you guys are putting in. Hey, got a brand new set on Asia Durr. Got a brand new set for Malik Newman. I mean, you literally have sets for all different types of players from all over the country at all different levels. Saw a post the other day about Kansas men basketball. Saw Stephen Curry post. Been really encouraged with the amount of content you guys have put out. Kudos to you and your team.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. And that's been the neat thing for me as I transition, from the coaching box more to the journalistic side and the evaluator side, is I get to see players from all over the country, and I'm a coach by nature, and I say, okay, what would I do to get Malik Newman a shot? Well, I think I might set a screen here, I'd put him here, get a handoff here, and I just put it down on paper, and I think a number of coaches have found that to be very, very useful. So we're going to keep doing it.
Make sure to get your subscription today, man.
I need a set for me so that when I go to LA Fitness,
No.
they can get me that mid-range shot. I like.
Hey, it's going to be called the bench set, man.
Can we put it on
get
a
your-
hidden portion
Hey, go
of the
get your
site?
6 and go get your 6 and 6, man. 245. Just get jacked up.
Go hit the weights, G. Appreciate you joining us here on SUVtv. That is going to do it as Peachtree Ridge shoots the lights out and goes home with the victory. As a result, I'm Marcus Burnett, joined by J.L. Hemingway and Brandon Clay. Be sure to stick with us as we've got one more game here live from the Jericho Classic this evening.